Hi everyone. The past 4 weeks we have looked in depth at the story of Ezra and Nehemiah, and we hope that you've been given great insight into those two books. But let us not move on too quickly from Nehemiah. There are some gripping practical insights from Nehemiah that will make us very effective in our workplaces. And so, for the next 4 weeks, we will use Nehemiah to bring God's kingdom into whichever sector of society that you are positioned in: business, health, science, media, arts, sports, university, colleges, schools, etc. Now, here's a core verse for us for the next 4 weeks from Proverbs 28, verse 2 in the Good News Bible. But a nation will be strong and endure when it has intelligent, sensible leaders. In the Living Bible, it says something similar, but with honest, sensible leaders, there is stability. Now, notice these two words, strong and endure. These are the benefits of sensible leadership. Now, you can apply this verse to your family, to your work life, to the nation. And there are few things needed more in society today than stability. We need it in our homes, in our workplaces, and in our nation. With many rapid changes and upheavals, we need stability and sensible leadership. Now, Nehemiah was an honest, sensible leader. He saw a need and he responded to it. The greatest kingdom need in our global society today is leadership. Now, you may be saying, I don't consider myself a leader, so how will this study be relevant to me? At this point, we discount ourselves from making a difference. But you are a leader because biblical leadership is defined in one word: influence. Leadership is influence. And therefore, we are all leaders in God's kingdom, and we can all influence in our families, our workplaces, and in our nation. And it is God's desire for you to be an honest, sensible influencer. So here's an important principle to begin with. Nothing happens of kingdom impact until someone provides leadership for it. For example, in your own family, if there are problems, nothing happens until somebody in the family says, we're going to do something about it. And it's the same in your workplace and in the nation. Everyone is an influencer, just in different areas, and neither age nor gender has anything to do with it. If you are willing to be an influence, God's kingdom will be established through you. Now, Nehemiah is an outstanding example of how to be a kingdom influence. And let's just focus on two passages. In Nehemiah 1, verse 11, just a few short words: I was a cupbearer to the king. Now, a cupbearer was probably the second most important position in the nation. He was a combination of state president, bodyguard, and assistant to the king. And the reason he was called the cupbearer was because part of his job was to taste the wine before the king drank it to make sure that it wasn't poisoned. And the point is this: that Nehemiah had to be trustworthy, reliable, and available. But here's another very important point. Nehemiah was not even a Persian, and he was second in command of the whole nation. You see, God places us in the right position for what he wants to do through us. Where you are at now is exactly where God wants to use you. So don't look around you or wish that you were somewhere else. And the second passage we want to just focus on is verse 4 of chapter 1. When I heard these things, said Nehemiah, I sat down and I wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Upon hearing the needs of the people in Jerusalem, Nehemiah takes it seriously. He is sensitive enough to let the needs around him move him. He was not wrapped up in his position or comfort. And so in these two verses, we find out what it takes to make a kingdom influence in whatever sector of society you work in. Firstly, Nehemiah was aware and sensitive to the needs around him, and he took them seriously. Remember this: Nehemiah had made it in life. He was at the peak of his career, the second best position in the whole nation. He was earning a big salary. and he had never ever lived or even been in Jerusalem. So why would he rock the boat? Yet he is aware, he's sensitive to the real lives of people around him, and he's sensitive enough to let the needs around him move him. He's not wrapped up in his position or comfort. And so here's a very important question. Are you? The second thing we learn about kingdom influence is that Nehemiah was reliable and dependable. He had a proven track record. The king considered him so trustworthy that he gave him the most reliable position in the kingdom, the cupbearer. And he trusted his personal security to Nehemiah. God uses people who are trustworthy, reliable, and dependable. And the third thing we can find in these two verses is that Nehemiah was available. When the situation needed a leader, Nehemiah said, Tumamina, here am I, send me. He had the position that everybody else wanted. And the problem in Jerusalem was 2 months camel ride away across the desert. And yet Nehemiah says, I'm available. And God still chooses him, even though he didn't even have the skills for that particular job. He was a cupbearer, not a contractor. You see, God is looking for ability in influences. He is looking for sensitivity, stickability, and availability. Now, what about you? Do you want to be a Nehemiah type influencer in your workplace? Here are the key points that count. Are you credible? Are you growing in character? Are you sensitive to people? Are you dependable? Can God rely on you? Are you available? How can you be a kingdom influencer in your workplace? That's what we're going to look at in our study today.